Hello there, fearfully and wonderfully made human. And welcome back to another episode of the Holistic Counselor Podcast. It's me, Diana S. Rice from Through the Valley Therapy and Transform Mind Consulting and Coaching. Today, we're going to talk about something I have seen again and again in the therapy room over the years, especially with clients who deeply love Jesus, want to keep their faith, but are also trying to disentangle what is truly biblical truth from what they were raised in, taught culturally, or absorbed through church systems that may have created more guilt and shame than freedom. This isn't about deconstruction for the sake of tearing things down, but about discernment, healing, and learning how to hold faith and humanity together in a healthier, more honest way. I recently had a conversation with today's guest, and I knew immediately this was a conversation we needed to have here on the podcast. Her work sits right at the intersection of faith, grief, relationships, sexuality, and emotional healing. And it speaks directly to so many people who feel unseen, misunderstood, or alone in the church. I am so honored to welcome Tracy Nallery Fultz. Tracy is a licensed clinical social worker and the owner of Heartfelt Needs Counseling and Caring Center. She brings over 20 years of experience in the mental health field and is deeply passionate about helping people heal emotionally, spiritually, and relationally. Her work focuses on relationships, grief, faith, and mental health, and she has a unique ability to make complex topics both practical and deeply compassionate. Tracy blends solid clinical training with a faith-based approach, helping women break free from unhealthy patterns, navigate loss with courage, and cultivate emotional health while strengthening their spiritual walk. Her work is inspired by Isaiah 61, 1 through 3, and grounded in the belief that true wholeness happens when body, soul, and spirit are aligned and cared for. She's also a newly published author, writing devotionals that reflect her own life journey, including her work, My Journey Solo, which supports singles seeking healing, honesty, and hope. Tracy was honored as the National Association of Social Workers Social Worker of the Year in 2021, and her heart for this work is unmistakable. Tracy, I'm grateful you're here today. Thank you for coming on.
I'm so glad to be here, Diana. Very excited.
All right. So let's tell the audience a little bit of your story. Can you share what led you to create Heartfelt Needs and specifically what inspired you to write My Journey Solo and speak openly about being single, sexual, and saved?
Yeah. So my practice, heartfelt needs, really came. I say, what did it come from? And it really came from obedience. God set me up throughout the years. Every time there was a scale or increase in my career, it came from God. And so I did go back to school to get my master's, but my plan was to get it to create an agency to help with recidivism. I wanted to work with people coming out of the prison population, but I have a surrendered heart. So I did the work. And the more that I did the work, God was like, it's clinical, it's clinical, it's clinical. And I was
Wow.
like, I don't want to listen to people talk all day. I want to I'm quick solution focused, right? My master's was CBT solution focused. So I'm like, let's find the issue. But the more he pressed on me, pay attention clinically, I did. He gave me favor. A lady, I went to a training, never met her before. You know how you network. We exchanged numbers. That was on a Tuesday. That Friday morning, she called me. She was like, I was really listening to you. And if you are serious, I'm going to help you get your clinical licensure. And she said, all you have to do is you show up, you work. I'm not going to charge you. Like she got to bill. And so we created a great relationship. She did it. She trained me. And so when that wrapped up, I had plans again. I was going to move. I was going to Nashville, and every door was closing. Every door was closing.
Right.
And she popped back up and she called. She's like, I've been thinking about you, and it's time for you to open your own private practice. And so come and meet me, and I'm going to help you do that. And
Wow.
so that was how Heartfelt Needs came about.
How long ago was that? And where are you
Oh,
located? Where's Heartfelt Needs at?
well, I'm virtual. I'm located in Woodbury, Tennessee right now, but I'm
Okay.
originally from Cleveland, Tennessee. And so her practice was in Athens, small town. So she let me dabble in a little bit of everything because hers was like a one-stop shop.
Uh-huh.
But I am in Tennessee. I'm licensed though in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Missouri as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, good for you. Wow, that's awesome. Good
Yeah.
to know. Good to know
Mhm.
because sometimes people call me and I'm like, sorry, I'm only licensed in Florida and that's where I'm staying.
Yeah. And hopefully the social work compact is going to be up and running this summer.
Well, that's been a
Summer.
promise for a while because I'm
I
a
know.
I'm a mental health counselor, so it's
Mhm.
different. I mean, it's funny how we're all on this under this board, right? The MFTs, the
Mhm.
CSWs, or LCSWs,
Mhm.
and LMHC, and I think in other states it's called LPCs. And I mean, it's so
Mhm.
many, so many. But we're all just trying to help,
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
right? And so, but my journey solo. Now let's talk
Mhm.
about my journey solo. What does that mean? Because I know the word solo,
Mhm.
I'm Spanish, so it's like alone, right?
Alone.
My
Mhm.
journey alone. And so many people are scared to be alone. That is something I teach. Like you need to learn to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. And instead of thinking you're lonely, why don't we, and if you're a person that has faith, why don't we shift it and be like it's solo serenity? You get to be still. God tells us
Mhm.
to be
That's
still.
good.
So tell me, Tracy, what's
So
this my journey solo?
my journey solo was my journey. I was married, short marriage, 4 years, and after I married, I was single for 15 years. And I'm like we're talking about, I'm a woman of faith. So in my singlehood, there are certain things that I practice, and one of them, is abstinence. And I date with intentionality. Even well, after my first marriage, I was very specific. I was going to date with intentionality. I'm dating because I want to be married. So I did not have a lot of dating and courtship because it was just not a lot coming and pursuing that I felt was appropriate. So my journey solo really is talking about the journey of singlehood, and it stemmed from in my practice as I begin to mature and develop in my skills and my niche. I found myself working a lot with women, single women, and even married women, but a lot of single women who are on this journey of being single for prolonged seasons of time. It's just not the short, or we have the young adults who are in their 19s, 20s, they got their high school, they got their college, but I'm finding myself working with a lot of women who are in prolonged seasons of singleness.
Yeah.
And I had that. I was in a prolonged season of singleness. I didn't think I was going to be in a prolonged season of singleness, but I was. So during that time, I was on a journey with the Lord. And initially, I was happy, I was excited, I was doing the work. We hear about you got to heal and you do this and you make the list and all of those things. I put in all of that work. And then it got to the point to where it's like, okay, I can't heal anymore when it comes relationally. And so hope deferred started kicking in because I'm asking these questions, God, what do I need to do to make this kind of happen? And one of the mindsets that I help my women work to overcome is we begin to get in the mindset of it's because I'm not good enough. It's because I'm doing something wrong. It's because I'm unattractive. It's all of those what if narratives that begin to play out with us being at fault, damaged, or broken. And
Yes.
so I'm working with women doing this. And in my practice and working, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my story. I'm looking at my clients and, some disclosure, some things. And so my journey solo actually came after a devotion that I wrote called My Journey Surrender. And that was about practicing a lifestyle of surrender to God. And that too came from my journal writings. I'm a big journal. I love to journal write. If I say I started young, I was a diary keeper. And
Okay.
so just one day I was praying about what this information in my journaling, and the Lord began to say, I want you to write this. I want you to share this piece of your journal entries. I want you to do these things. So that's how it came about, really, just the work that I'm doing and seeing that these women need space to talk.
Yes.
They need something. I put it in written form. I'm going to create it as a curriculum this year. Will be the first time I actually do the support group with the devotion that I'm writing.
Okay.
And so, but it came from my lived experience and then being put before women who need to hear somebody say, you are not alone, girl. I
Right.
get it. I
You're not
understand.
alone. You're
Mm-hmm.
not broken.
Mm-mm.
You're not forsaken.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is something, and I get it too. Like I'm not, listen, I'm a married woman, and
Hmm.
it's when I have these young single, because this is what I see, Tracy, and this is I can't wait to have your curriculum, because to me I'm going to be like, maybe you should, this is, I give them that safe space to be able to work it up out and give them the tools, but to be in a group, in a community, I think it's even better. You could do
Hmm.
both, have both, because to me what I hear a lot is, I did everything that my youth group told me to do. I stayed a virgin. I stayed, and then you have sometimes what I've seen, and I've had to work through with some of the young women, is that they think they're broken when they do something sexual
Hmm.
that somebody kind of forced on them.
Hmm.
Okay. And then that to me causes a lot of grief, confusion, hatred towards God,
Yeah.
and then they give up their whole faith and everything, and they're trying to work out that grief,
Hmm.
and I know you talk about disenfranchised grief, because
Hmm.
that can look at like a few different things.
Hmm.
Okay, so I know, because you have that experience, and people that are listening that are going, oh yeah, okay, Tracy gets it. Like, you went, people need to understand, the it isn't a linear process, grief is.
Hmm.
It's not like the Kubler-Ross, here are the stages and this is how it goes. It will come and shatter you out of nowhere,
Hmm.
right? How do you, if there's someone listening right now who's 28, 29, has kept their virginity, has, they get their hopes, that every guy, they've been told, like, you as the woman need to be this, like, I remember one client was like, oh yeah, my mom was like the fragile flower, or the bubble gum and the youth group. Or do you see where I'm getting at,
Hmm.
Tracy? All the
Yeah.
stories that a lot of young women, I didn't become a Christian until 29, and I'm telling you right now, by the time I was 29, I did so much stuff that most adults right now in their 60s have never even done.
Hmm.
So I'm just saying, like, to me, when I became a Christian, was very, very different than what I was starting to hear in those four walls
Hmm.
constantly. And now, as a therapist for so long, working with young adults, it just, I've gathered a lot of understanding, information, empathy, tools, but I didn't experience those things. I remember, being raised Catholic. Like, it was always like, you stay a virgin till married. You stay a virgin
Hmm.
till married. And my sex talk, Tracy, was, if you get pregnant, I'll kill you.
Oh, yeah.
And that was it. And then I'm like, how do you get pregnant? Like, I don't know. Like, thank goodness, the public school system taught me. And guess what else taught me? The streets.
Hmm. My sex talks was, I don't know why you want to have sex. It's not good.
All right, let's go there. We're going. You ready? We're
Yeah.
ready. We're ready. Because listen, these are the real talks that people need to listen in order to understand that they're not alone. They're not alone, and there's help.
Hmm.
And they could still have their faith, right? So let's talk about that disenfranchised grief.
Yeah. So that disenfranchised grief, that's when there is a significant loss or disruption in a familiar pattern and it's not socially acknowledged, openly discussed. It may not be deemed as significant. Or sometimes it's just misunderstood. So when we're talking about the grief when it comes to being saved, sexual and single, prolonged seasons of that, the disenfranchised grief is the things that we're losing as we wait, right? So we lose our youth, we can lose our health, we can lose, like, I'm remarried now. I'm in my 40s. I got married in my 40s. I got divorced in my 20s. In my where she said, I don't know why you want to have sex, it's not good. Well, I found it to be very good. I love it, I enjoy it. And so
When it's done in a healthy way, and that's one thing we
yes.
don't teach our culture, that it can be, because we see
Mhm.
so much. I hate to say that. So, like, we've given Satan too much power, first of all,
Yes,
when
yes.
God made sex.
Hmm.
Okay, but
It's a
it's
gift.
become something disgusting in our worldview, and also it is sad, because you got human trafficking, you got
Hmm.
pornography, you got young men addicted to, and women. I got to
Hmm.
tell you, I have a handful of clients
Yeah.
that are addicted to porn, and the shame and guilt that they have, and I have
Yeah.
to work through that with them, because It is. It's
Mhm.
such that people, I have to teach them the science of what's happening in their
In
system
their
and
body.
that, right?
Yeah.
So let's keep going. I'm sorry.
Well, I want
This
to
is
say
my
something
first.
about that when we're
Yeah.
talking about just sex and it being good and it's a gift from God. So
Yeah.
this is something that I say a lot in session. Our urges, our desires, being aroused, right? The experience of sex is normal, natural, healthy, good. But we're in a fallen world. So what happened is we're having normal, natural responses, urges, experiences in abnormal situations. It's not what we're feeling. It's not sex that's abnormal. It's what has been created around it. And so that's part of the work that I do, especially when we're talking about desire and arousal. When people come in and they're feeling condemned, I masturbated, I was thinking about sex, and or I have this desire, I want to have sex. Well, that was given to you by God, right? We are created in the image of God. And so that tells me if I'm created in his image and when I read his word, I see God have desire. He created us because he had a desire for worship, right? So it's not desire in and of itself that's wrong. It's what we do in response to that urge, that emotion where we fall into the right or wrong category. So a lot of it is let's take some time to actually define what we're talking about. I do a lot of let's get the textbook definition. Now let's get your lived experience definition. Excuse me, those are facts. We're going to put some truth in it, the word of God. So when we can kind of slow down and get to understand, what am I actually saying? If I'm saying I feel shame, what do I mean, right? Shame means I'm
Yes.
having a response because I did something that went outside of my beliefs, what I feel is right. That's the emotional response of shame. So if we can identify that and we're doing the work to say, okay, it's a feeling. Our feelings tell us something. They're indicators of something that needs to be nurtured, understood, processed. But if it goes beyond that and it becomes the work of identity, right? If it's a spirit of shame is going to come for your identity. A spirit of shame comes from the enemy. What does the enemy do? He kills, steals, and destroys. So we have to discern, am I having an emotional response of shame or am I being attacked or influenced by a spirit of shame? Two different things. And
Wow.
so that's kind of some of the work that we're going to do to tear those things down. So I know we've bounced around from disenfranchised to this, but I
It's all
think
good.
that's one of the most important things that I do in session with my women is let's get an understanding of actually what we're talking about and what we're feeling, because I learned when we can put some language to it, they'll be like, well, you know what? No, that is not what I feel. Especially with guilt. Guilt is another one when they say, I feel guilty. What does guilty mean? It means there's an implied wrong. You've done something. What did you do wrong?
Hmm.
Well, I didn't do anything wrong. Well,
Hmm.
why do you feel guilt? And we sit with that and we think about it
Yes.
and we ask questions, and it's
Yes.
like, well, I do feel guilt, but I've not done anything wrong.
Right.
Okay, let's get some reframes and our thoughts going on and give space for our emotions to catch up with what we know. So,
Right.
yeah.
Oh no, and that's how we become people pleasers.
Mhm.
Or, sometimes we are raised in high controlling environments or religions and people confuse that, how do we whatever denomination, right, or religion or no matter what, it's like when we confuse the human being that's pushing that narrative to control the others with what actual is in the Bible and
Mhm.
what actually is your personal relationship with Jesus Christ. This is
Relationship.
right, Tracy. I find myself doing a lot of work with that guilt and shame, what you just said,
Hmm.
that being still and giving them a safe space, because we also have to understand you're coming in with so many stories in your head
Hmm.
and you think they're all from God or
Hmm.
from, but it's
Somebody that you honor and respect that's told you that.
right. Yeah, right. And it's right. And because we all are raised by a village. We're
Hmm.
all raised by a culture. I don't care where you are in the world because we have listeners all over the world, right?
Hmm.
And we're all raised in an environment and now it's time to take a step back. And that's just why I like the solo part. It is scary to be solo at times
Hmm.
because you think you can't handle it.
Hmm.
But God asks us to be solo with him. Jesus even went into the mountains by
Hmm.
himself.
Hmm.
And Jesus came to the world to show us the way, to show us how to be on this earth. with others, with God, with himself, with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And how you said before, Tracy, Satan's job is to do those things:
Mm-hmm.
steal, kill, and destroy
Mm-hmm.
every relationship.
Every relationship.
Number one, the relationship within yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I I know that like those young people, because I deal with men too,
Mm-hmm.
but mostly the women that come to me that were maybe raised in churches and they, went through purity culture.
Mm-hmm.
And and I get like why some people do that, because you don't want your kid to run around, sleeping around, getting diseases, getting knocked up. I remember I kind of grew up in the inner city where it's very rough and things that were said, and I saw things too. How do we, you and I, Tracy, now with the wisdom that God has given both of us, be able to help the next generation? Because these next generations are, I think, as you're in your 40s, are you a millennial or Gen X?
I think I'm an X. I'm not a millennial. I'm an X, I think. Because I'm
Okay.
40, I'm 47, 48.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
X, you're X,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and I'm 54.
Yeah.
And we're probably both seeing, no matter where you are. And you're from the South. So the South has that Bible Belt, man. It, to me, I wrote a poem about it. It's like the Bible Belt is choking out true Christianity
Mm-hmm.
in a way that is not healthy. That's I see. My husband's from the South, so I picked. He's a Southern Baptist preacher's kid from the
Okay.
South.
Yeah.
So I picked up a lot of, going, wait a minute, huh? And then I always questioned it. I'm always like, wait, where's this at? Why? Why is it? So to me, like, so many are believers are struggling with that desire and they can't talk about it. You know, how do you reconcile being human? I mean, you kind of touched on it before, where it's like, no, we have these discussions. It's a beautiful thing. But say that the client comes in and they were hurt by an adult as a child sexually.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm going to go there, Tracy. I told you I was
Okay.
going to
Yeah.
go to these places
Mm-hmm.
because these are the people that come to us as therapists.
Mm-hmm.
And many Christian counselors that I know of don't touch these things. And then after they go to biblical counseling or Christian counseling, and if the person that is doing the counseling does not know how to talk raw and
Mm-hmm.
real, you know,
Yeah.
what would you say to someone like, well, yeah, I masturbate, now I'm going to hell?
Yeah. And I would say to them, when you're in your relationship with the Lord, what did he say to you about that? Did he tell you you were going to hell?
Mm,
Right. I do bring in the word, right? Because some don't want some, you got to meet them in relationship first before you try to educate and say right and wrong, right? Part of being a ethical therapist is I'm going to meet you where you are and I'm going to get informed consent. So if they come in and they say I masturbate and I'm going to hell, I don't go right for that. I go for, okay, tell me about your relationship with God. What do you know about him? Tell me about your character. Tell me about your beliefs. What does that stem from? Because I do the work to undo religion and cultivate relationship, right? Religion is what's telling you you're going to hell. What does relationship tell you? Relationship tells you mercy triumphs over judgment.
I love that.
Relationship tells you God is going to reveal to you when Jesus walked the earth, he was in always, ALL, capital ALL, and always tempted, right? And so if it was all, was he tempted to masturbate? If it was all, right? We know he is without sin, but he can help you because in some way it may not have been masturbation. We got the categories, all these things, but it might have been something where self-discipline, self-stewardship, self-denial, he had to walk in it to be without sin.
Mm,
So if I know these things about Jesus and I know mercy triumphs over judgment because it's the judgment that's saying masturbation, hell,
hmm.
mercy triumphs.
Yeah.
What's your relationship with mercy? What's your thoughts on mercy?
Many people don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
Because some people are raised in, talk about this a lot on my podcast because of my experience as a counselor who works with Christians, and I am a Christian. But I also work with non-Christians,
Me
right?
too.
Clinically licensed, we need, to
Yeah.
have that understanding, and that's part of our, with the science and the other
Right.
modalities and everything. But to me, some denominations are so brutal. I don't know how else. There is no mercy. And then there's others that there is no consequence,
Mm-hmm. That
right?
one.
At all. Okay. And so to me, I go in, I always want to know, when did it start?
Mm-hmm.
Why did it happen? What is mercy? Because people
Mm-hmm.
have no idea what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I know there's people out there now in this day and age that are talking really bad about empathy. And as a therapist, toxic empathy and all this empathy, and it's very weak. And, our men are weak. And, within you can't be empathetic. And I think they are misconstruing what empathy is too, and
Mm-hmm.
mercy,
Yeah.
and it's become such a I don't like politics in that manner when you take in the word of God to care more about political systems than we
The
are caring.
person.
Oh, Tracy, yes, the human being,
The person. Yep.
the human being. And I think as us therapists, we are now in a day and age because I never saw this coming, Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you did or not, but I did not see what was coming in our field.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't do something healthy for the next generations, because I have six grandchildren,
Mm-hmm.
and I see things and I'm like, oh my goodness, and starting younger and younger. I see fourth graders looking at porn because the phone is so easy to just and accidentally putting in some kind of word and then boom,
Right.
and parents don't know or they
And I
don't
think
care.
that's where it starts, where you said, how do we get this next generation? For me, my age group
Mhm.
is those that are parenting and grandparenting this next generation. And I feel like my path to help them is to educate those that are raising them, to get them to the place where they're not afraid to talk about sex. They're not
Yeah.
afraid to talk about porn. They're not afraid to talk about masturbation. It's getting them educated and not with if you get pregnant, I'll kill you, or I don't know why you want to do it. It's not good. No, let's talk about we're body, soul, and spirit. What happens with my body? What happens with my soul? What happens with my spirit when it comes to sex, when it comes to masturbation, when it comes to let's get comfortable, right? Let's get really just down in it and be okay. How you said earlier, it's learning to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. If
Yeah.
we don't, we won't change anything, right? We're
No.
going to repeat, but we got to look at it. We got to face it. We got to talk about it. And everybody's language is going to be different. And that's where you're saying we're asking questions. I want to hear what their language is to help them, but I also got to introduce some language and I got to introduce some normalcy and I have to introduce some you're not alone, right? And sometimes I know as therapists, we got this thing about disclosing. Right. And so we only disclose if we can make it fit and connect and help them because we don't want the focus in the session to shift. But sometimes I found the power of disclosure to open up the floodgates. If they know, oh girl, I masturbated, in my journey solo, one of the things that I talk about, I remember I masturbate. I think I started about 8 or 9, right? And when if you we don't want to get into all the details and I don't share
No.
how and what introduced me to
Right.
sex and all those kind of things,
Right.
but to say, hey, I was a young girl
Yeah.
and I masturbated.
Yeah.
Hey, I was a single woman. I masturbated. I'm a married woman now. I have masturbated. Right? Now, each season, I'm walking that out with God differently.
Yeah.
My journey solo, I talk about in there where about masturbation. One of the chapters is masturbation. Let's talk about it, right?
Wow. All
Yeah, because
right,
we
Tracy.
need
Good for
to.
you. Good for
Yeah, we
you.
need
Because
to.
nobody, listen, nobody can, not nobody. I haven't heard anybody talk about the word masturbation without, like this is life. This is reality. We have to come to a place in this world right now where if we do not, because everything was always under the carpet. I don't care what culture you are from. I know in my Latin culture, it was just like, yeah, no, like you, let's pretend it's not happening. We just, in my culture, it was loud,
Hmm.
right? My husband's a white man. In his culture, it was so quiet. Like, it's like, okay, we're going to pretend it's not happening. Let's be, you know,
Hmm.
the voice got higher and it's very sweet. It's just like, okay, where did that get us?
Yeah. And it's so funny when I hear different things, right? Because I didn't hear about masturbation in the church until after I was divorced and I was trying to figure out, is it right? Is it wrong? Growing up, the sex stuff was Jezebel.
Oh, so
Like,
you're okay. See, I
yeah,
didn't grow
just
up with it. I
anything.
know I studied that. I studied
Yeah,
that because I'm like, somebody called me that once, and I'm
yeah.
just like, that's a pretty name, like I
Yeah,
wasn't a
no,
Christian.
Jezebel and the woman
Jezebel's
caught
fun.
in adultery and Delilah. That's what sex got you linked to, right? Because a woman's girlfriend, is so powerful and it can make a man just lose all of his self-control and integrity.
Hmm.
That's what I was raised up hearing in the church.
Hmm. Right.
Now, raised in the church, yes, but kind of different when you're hearing we was sent to church, sent to Sunday school, different things, but it was not like even though I was exposed to the purity culture and some of
Hmm.
the things, uh, that wasn't the camp that I was in, even though it's like, I knew I was supposed to save myself for marriage,
Right.
but the sex was just don't do it. What I got raised because you're
Hmm.
Jezebel, you're Delilah, you're the woman caught in adultery. That's
Wow.
what got, yeah.
And what always okay, I was raised by a bunch of women with
Hmm.
Catholicism and Santeria. All right. So that's a whole different uh talk. But to me, what I was seeing, and I know that that was like, hey, don't you dare do these things. But I also had this thing where I had to learn to trust males. And so I have that little bit, and people were like, you got that Jezebel spirit. I'm like, no, I didn't know any better back when I was younger. You got to learn to forgive yourself and move
Hmm.
forward and understand, like, all right, this is things that have happened. You're not stuck in them. Now, how do I now glorify the Lord with my story and my
Hmm.
testimony? But back then, when I was seeing with others, or when I became a Christian and I was in the church atmosphere, learning and trying to be like, wait, what? Why did men got away with everything and the women, it was
Hmm.
always the woman's fault? I got
Hmm.
so angry at that. And I have a minors in women's study at FAU, the college, Florida Atlantic University, in a secular environment. That's how I got saved, Tracy. I
Hmm.
was studying women's studies. I was going to get a master's in women's studies. But when I was studying women in religion, that's when I realized, when I studied like who Jesus really is,
Hmm.
that's when I was really like, wait a minute, Jesus brought women forward
Yes.
constantly, respected us,
Hmm.
gave us autonomy,
Yeah.
loved us. There was never once did I ever hear a blaming the way I felt, the blame and shame throughout the culture I've been living in 54 years here on this earth
Hmm.
in America. And to me, I don't want to put men down
Right.
at all.
Hmm.
Okay, because they have their own struggles that I will never know about. I could read as many books as I want, and I try to
Hmm.
understand. I'm raising sons and grandsons.
Hmm.
So sex on both ends, men are taught you're not, a man unless you have this many women,
Yeah.
while us women are taught that if you ever have more than one man,
You
you're the
are.
Jezebel slut.
Hmm. Yeah.
What do we do with this, Tracy?
We educate. We educate. We support. The man and the woman, and we. Something else that I do. I work to say, okay, let's look at our timeline. In each timeline, there's a new teaching. There's a new, like you said, the purity culture. I'm talking about be scared of the woman because that's old for us now, right? So we educate, we hold space, and we say, yeah, that was that. But what are your thoughts on that now? And
Mhm.
we let them know we are human. That means we're not perfect. We get it
Yes,
wrong.
that's it.
And I'm sorry that was your experience. They got it wrong. They got it wrong. And ignorance is a word that I say because some of our words in our English language have gotten a bad rap. And we think to call somebody ignorant, oh my gosh, that's just so wrong and rude and disrespectful. No, ignorance means a lack of knowledge,
Hmm.
right? So we
Yeah.
can admit and own up to they were ignorant. They were repeating what they were taught. Most of that comes from men, and like you said, we're not putting down men, but they
Hmm.
were operating in a spirit of fear because they didn't. And I'm doing the work. We're redefining self-care. What is self-care? It is self-stewardship. It is slowing down to learn how to walk and operate in self-discipline for me to show up as my best self and being my best self for me and in the relationships we have. We teach self-care, right? They didn't have self-care. The
No.
Lord told us, go and make disciples of men. Who was the ones that were discipling them, and what were their things that were unhealed? What were their things that they were ignorant of? So we got to give space for where did it come from? Where did it originate from? And say, now that I know better, now that I have a different understanding, can I relate to myself differently?
Yeah.
Can I, and another thing that I do with my clients is I talk about the fruit of the spirit. When we're going to process trauma and we're going to process our pain stories, we're going to process our betrayal, our shortcoming, even our view of self when we have a negative view of self that we're trying to overcome. I say we always hear the fruit of the spirit and we think about how do we operate in that toward others. But let's flip it and how do we operate in that toward ourselves?
Wow.
Oh,
I love that. So let's talk about the fruit of the spirit a little because some people, honestly, like I have listeners that are uh like Christian curious. Does that make sense? They're not
uh-huh,
Christians, but they're
uh-huh.
like, okay, I want to understand. There's some that are believers and they've been walking for a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have those that want nothing to do with Christianity at all, and that's fine. Like, I'm not here. I'm not God. I'm just here trying to do my best on this earth with the knowledge I have and the resources that I have. So Galatians 5:20, I remember when I first heard that after walking with Christ, like, back in 2000. And I remembered, I know it's in Galatians 5:22 and 23, I think,
Yeah,
right?
I was pulling it up here.
Yeah. And to me, I remember self-control is something that I remember the nun used to beat at me and tell my mom, and then I would get home and get a beating too because that was it. She lacks self-control. She lacks self-control. And so, of course, when you're 6 years old, hearing that for a whole year straight and getting, with a ruler with the nun, it's just like you start believing that. And this is
Mm-hmm.
why I try to teach people, like, stop and listen to why you believe the things you believe. Does that actually come from the word of God?
The word of God.
Or did it come from a person who used the word of God against you
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
controlling you?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So back to Galatians 5:22 to 23,
Mm-hmm.
which is the fruit of the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Can you read it, please?
Yes. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
So I love all of that because if you really think and dissect each one, how do
That's
you use it in a therapeutic format?
Yeah. And I wish I could show you, but how I use it is I created a handout that we
Okay.
go and I list what the fruit is and we give like, let me just give you an example. So, a fruit is love. So I want to learn to practice unconditional acceptance. That's the definition that I gave love, unconditional acceptance. So what does that look like in a practical step as we go through this journey for you to heal your self view, self image, how you relate to yourself? You're going to speak kindly to yourself instead of judging yourself. So that's how we're going
Mm.
to apply the fruit of love, right? And then we look at joy. Joy definition, deep sense of peace and gratitude. What is that going to look like as we walk this out? It means you're going to find meaning in small moments, even while you're grieving or in
Ah.
distress.
Okay, well, let's stop right there.
Okay.
Because that is probably one of the hardest things for humans to do, especially when we live in a culture that is being pushed constantly through social media, through whatever you're watching, that joy equals happiness equals stuff,
Yeah.
materialism, feeling this ecstatic, like vacation-y kind of
Mhm.
lifestyle. And honestly, we have to come back to understand that the whole range of all emotions is part of the human condition.
Condition.
And we need to be okay with that.
Hmm.
So, with that joy, people confuse
Hmm.
joy with constantly not, well, I'm depressed,
Right.
right? I'm like, yeah, but you have the reason to be depressed. You're someone just bad.
Yes. Yes.
And people don't, you know what I mean by
Yep.
that?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely do it all the time. That's one of the things like I find what we do when we're holding space, we're normalizing and saying, what are you supposed to if somebody just died, if I just found out my husband had an affair, right? If I'm in my prolonged season of singleness, what am I supposed to feel? I'm not supposed to be happy and excited. That would be an abnormal emotional response. What you're feeling is normal for what you're
Mm,
experiencing. It's
yeah.
based on the circumstance. And when you were talking about they confuse happiness and joy, right? The way that I try to break it down and say happiness is an emotion. Joy is a condition of your soul.
Wow.
And so we break that down. What does that look like if I'm grieving, right? The Bible tells us we are to grieve, but not as if there is, not as one who has no hope, not as if there is no hope. I grieve because I love. I grieve because there's life that was once embedded in mine, right? So I'm going to grieve, but I'm not going to hit despair, right? I'm not going to hit hopelessness and defeat because my hope is not in me. It's not in the
Mm,
person that I lost. It's in Christ.
amen.
So if I grieve and I take my grief to him, right? He's near to the brokenhearted. I take my grief to him. He's going to do what I can't. My grace is sufficient. I can't make myself, I don't even know how to connect with joy when I lost my father, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know how to connect with joy when I'm divorced and time is going by and I'm aging and I want to have a baby and everybody's getting married. How do I connect with joy? By getting into the presence, right?
Mm,
By going to the Lord. I love Psalms 23. There's so much in there. I'm going, and he says, I cause you to lie down in green pastures. I lead you beside the quiet streams. I restore your soul. That's
hmm.
where the joy is in my
Yeah.
restored soul. So those
Yeah.
things like that, it's not, I don't get joy by what I do. I get joy by who I'm in and who is in me.
Right. And that's hard for people that have church hurt,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
that's what I work a lot with is
Hmm.
those that come in with so much anger and resentment and bitterness because of a lot of abuse and
Hmm.
narcissism in the systems that should have protected them.
Right. Be angry. Have the resentment normalized, right? That's
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah. And we
Why
work
wouldn't
through
you be
it.
mad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And even at God,
yes.
yes, limitations, raging at God,
Yeah.
raging, right?
Right.
Um, Jonah, I mean, there's all we can see where people had strong emotions against God. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't zap them,
No.
condemn them.
No.
Jesus in Matthew 26, the Garden of Gethsemane, Father, take this cup. Right? I don't want to do this. Where are you at? Right? He cried and was so in so much distress and anguish. His tears became as drops of blood.
Yeah.
That why would you do this to a people that you know? Like so normal feel that. Feel all of it. He can
All
take
of
it.
it.
He can
All
take
of
it.
it. Let's
Right?
go back to the rest of the fruit of the spirits because
Okay.
I think that would be very beneficial for someone that's listening that's never seen him that way or don't even know him, right? So
Okay.
we did love and joy. What were the
Okay.
others?
Peace. So, peace, a
Oof.
calm trust in God's presence. So,
Mm,
what that would look like would be grounding yourself in truth when anxiety rises. And these are just examples of quick. I'm going to
yeah.
show you this list and let's get started. You add to it. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like with when we're talking about peace, I don't know what peace feels like.
Hmm.
A calm trust in God's presence. I don't know what that feels like.
Me
So
answer.
I give them another exercise of what I call soaking. I think I said, God, it's so funny because we, the body of Christ, we are so afraid of certain things. So now it's
Yes.
sound baths. People are doing sound baths and all these things. Well, in my space, I was taught to soak in the presence of God. What does
Wow.
soaking in the presence of God look like? You get prostrate or you find a position to where you can just center yourself, begin to still yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
you for me, it was instrumental music. I
Mm-hmm.
don't go in to pray. I go into sense and to be present and to find out how he's going to touch me. That's
Yeah.
soaking, right?
Yeah.
Some people do it to spoken word. But so I say, well, if they say, I don't know how to calm myself in God's presence, I give them examples. Go do this and start off 3 to 5 minutes. And if
Yeah.
you tingle and you struggle and your mind, that's okay. But you're
And, and
going to do
and the way I do it is a lot more because to me, breath work is so
breath
important.
work. Hmm.
And like the Breathly app, which I'm going to put these things in the show notes. Anything we talk about
Okay.
that I could find, I'll put in the show notes for the
I'll send
listener.
you this too if you want to add
Oh,
it
I
as
would
a
love
PDF.
that. Yes,
Yeah.
Tracy. It's just breath. It's being still and regulating your nervous system. Scientifically proven that we have because we live in a world that's on all the time, and sometimes it's scary when you're still. There's people that cannot be still
Hmm.
because a lot of the trauma they had in childhood would come rushing in. I know when I was doing yoga there's things that happened when I was finally taught to be still because I was always on, but people don't realize that that nervous system dysregulation could be part of why you are making poor choices. And is it your
Hmm.
fault? No, not really, because no one taught you how to calm down.
Yeah.
Because we could read as much as we want in the word. It's the action that goes behind the living word,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
so peace is, some people can't sit in nature and
Hmm.
listen to birds. It freaks them out.
Hmm.
So we have to find a different way. Would it be a cold plunge? Could it be a sauna? Could it be a nice walk in a park? Could it be turning every electronic off?
Well, yeah.
You
We
know,
need rest. That's one of the
rest.
forms of rest,
That's
right? We think,
peace.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And we think rest is sleep, but rest is what do we do to calm down and or be rejuvenated? And
Without guilt or shame, because I know in my
without guilt or
culture,
shame. Oh,
resting,
yes.
girl, I know probably in your culture
Mm.
too.
Can't
Resting,
sit
it's
still.
like,
You better get
what?
up
You
and
can
do
rest when you
something.
die.
Yeah, yeah, we have that.
So, all right.
Yeah.
So, what else after peace?
Okay, so we got patience, willingness to wait and trust, like that being still. So that would be giving yourself permission to heal slowly. Because I find out they come in and after am I, and so I hit that at the first. Let me tell you, everybody's different. We might have 4 sessions, 8 sessions, 10, we might have years. So giving yourself to know that it's progression, not
Yes.
perfection or finality.
Oh, I love that. It's the perfect. Yes, because that's what people want is the perfection. All right. Plus, I got things to do. I,
Yeah, I
I'm
gotta be, let's
I'm
go.
spending this money. I got things to do. I have no patience, and it's like you're gonna pay either way.
Hmm.
Either you're gonna pay for help and prevention, or you're gonna pay after when you.
Right.
I hate to say it, but lose your mind to a place where it's not healthy.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's like learning patience. It goes with peace.
With peace, yep. Learning patience goes with so being peace, having peace that I'm on a journey. I'm in the
Mm.
middle of a process,
And it's
right? And
okay.
it's okay. And that radical accept, I need to accept that this is the moment that I'm in. I can't change what happened
No,
to me. I
that's
can
right.
kind of, take steps to kind of navigate and put some things in place for my future, but can't control it. So let me
Yes.
just be in this moment. Let me just be in
Yes.
this moment. So that kindness, right? Compassion and warmth.
Mm.
And I teach that. Let's see what our tone sounds like. Does my tone sound warm? What is my words? Am I using the right words? So it's treating yourself gentle in moments of weakness. And then we educate on weak. Weak is another word in our language that's gotten a bad rap, right?
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
something to be afraid of, something to resist, something to be ashamed to show. Weakness is a sign that there is something needed, that there's a
Oh,
lack of, that there's a deficiency, or that something needs to be developed. That's all it is. It's telling you something,
yes.
not
It is.
identifying you.
Oh my, Tracy, that's so good. It's telling you something. It's an indicator
Hmm.
of something that you might need. It's not your identity.
Not your identity.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So good. All right, what's next?
Okay. Goodness, moral integrity, and virtue. Choosing healing habits aligned with your values. That's how
Mm.
we would walk out goodness to ourselves.
Mhm.
Faithfulness, loyalty, and commitment. Showing up for yourself. That's good work. You got to show up for yourself with consistency and care. We're always worried about everybody else, everybody, but what about me?
But
Right?
that's a training, and I hear this a lot is the disentangling of being selfish because we do live in a very selfish society and culture. I, and it is, and it is a training. Like, you got to put everyone else first. This is,
Mm-hmm.
the last will be first, and
Mm-hmm.
and just everything, it to me it's the whole putting the oxygen mask on you so you're
Yeah.
able to be
Go
healthy
ahead.
enough to help everybody else. But there's a big training in Christian culture and and in women that we are the nurturers.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us, we are the ones, and it's okay if we say no, I need this hour every
Mm-hmm.
day
Every day, yeah. That's
without
what
guilt or
we're
shame.
redefining. That's why I'm saying we have to redefine uh self-care. We have to
Yes.
redefine what it is because the Bible says, first God, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, body, soul, all of that. The second is love your neighbor as
Yes,
yourself.
yourself.
So if I'm going to practice self-care, I'm not practicing selfishness or self-centeredness. I'm practicing how do I care for my body, soul, and spirit to be
In
good
a
for me
in a
and
healthy
you in
way,
a
though.
healthy way. In a healthy
Yeah.
way, of course. Yes,
Yes,
in a
because
healthy way. Healthy way, but it's
scrolling
necessary.
scrolling for an
Yeah,
hour on your
it's not
phone, and
self-care.
no, and then
Yeah.
then you're right. It is trying to redefine it, Tracy,
Mhm.
because some people were like, well, no, I want to go and eat my big bag of chips while I watch Netflix for an hour. That's what makes me feel good. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't want to judge them for that's their thing, but I'm like, does it really make you feel good to have those processed
Mhm.
seed
And
oils?
sometimes it too, it's looking at the why because the decision makers. I have some women who they have decision making fatigue. They're always in their head, always got to do this,
Yeah.
and the only time that they can get rest is when they can go somewhere else, and that's aided by a movie, that's aided by a book. So when I
Okay.
come out, so I engage to say, okay, when you leave that space, how do you leave? Do you leave in a lower mood? Or do
Ah,
you leave refreshed? Do you leave feeling like, okay, that was good. I laughed. I disconnected. Now let me go. How do you leave? Not the big
yes.
bag of chips, I know. But if I need to sit on the couch for an hour and I'm
But
veggie,
once in a while, okay, I
yeah.
gotta reframe that because
Okay.
once in
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
while, because I think us women we have the four seasons every month until you hit menopause, right? It's like the four seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall. And if you're in the winter season of that month and you need that big thing of macaroni and cheese, okay, I get it, and I'm not going to put it. But I like how you just said that. After you are done with that, are you feeling better or are you feeling worse? Because if you're feeling worse, that's an indicator that that's self-care is not caring.
And let's talk about what you just said about that too. We're going to do all of our topics because we were talking about masturbation, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things because people come to me and say, "Do you think masturbation is right or wrong? Is it a sin? Is it not a sin?" So one of the questions that we look at and we work through is how you said before, what brought you to it? Why are you masturbating? But you also say, "How do you feel when you leave that space?" Right.
Oh,
So, and just being personal with me, in my season of prolonged singleness, did I have occasions where I did? Yes, but I left it feeling condemned, nasty, wrong. Right. And so, not in the church. I went to school for a little while to at Institute of Sexual Wholeness to work to become a certified sex. And it was in that space, sex therapist, but it was in that space where I began to hear questions and because they wanted to talk about it. Right. So, I finally went to the Lord instead of kind of going around. I was looking for sermons. Instead of going around him, I went to him. And one of the first questions he asked me about masturbation was,
mhm.
how do you feel? Not right after you're done, because we know how we feel right after we're done, that release,
Yeah.
right? But 45 minutes, an hour after you're done, how do you feel?
Hmm.
Right. And we sit with that. And
Yeah.
why do you feel that way?
Right.
And it wasn't because I had to do all the work of what I was taught, but I was like, because really, why I was masturbating in that time was solely based on my relationship status, my relational depression and anxiety that I was feeling. And I was just so stressed out and
Hmm.
and so defeated. I'll never have sex again. It's just gonna be me, God. You might as well let me masturbate because, so he was like, is that giving you peace and joy?
Mm,
What's that doing to our relationship? So for me in that season, it was wrong because the fruit.
yeah. And it's become an idol.
Yeah,
Eh,
and I was trying to appease and get comfort the wrong way,
right. And
right?
then, and that's the difference. You know, you have to, because this is something working with adolescents for so long. It is something that scientifically understanding the body's buildup. Okay.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying right or wrong because, like I say, I cannot sit there and put these limits on another human being because that is not
Hmm.
my job.
Not your, yep.
Not my job at all. That's not what I'm called to do either because I'm not God.
Hmm.
It is for me to help you figure out your relationship with creator of the universe, your purpose, your identity, and is this thing becoming an idol or not? Are you utilizing it because, okay, it's been a month. I'm a 19-year-old dude with high testosterone
Hmm.
and I did it. And now I can move on. Is it that? Is it a woman who's got her period? You see, there's so many
So
different
many.
ways.
Yeah. And I was listening to an interview. I don't know if you're familiar with Julie Slattery. She does, Java with Julie. And
Mm.
she was interviewing Doug Rosenau, and he shared, because I know you're doing some younger, and I'm in the middle age span. I got the 30s, the 50s, and 60s
Oh,
women's coming
okay.
before me. And one of the things that he said, there was a lady that came to him, and she was saying, I've been praying and I don't feel any conviction. She knew the difference between conviction and condemnation. I don't feel any conviction about when I masturbate. And let me tell you why. Because I'm trying to get back out there and date again. And it's helping me to not put pressure, have expectations. I talked to God about, like, she had all of these things around her. And so he was like, who am I to tell her? And she is in relationship with God, and the fruit of the experience, the fruit of what she's doing, who am I to say?
Right.
Right.
No.
So it's
Wow.
like we got to be less rigid. And that's where we're coming away from religion to relationship. Because if I'm in relationship with somebody, we're having a conversation,
Hmm.
we're going back and forth. Like if in this is something too that God intended marriage to depict, healthy marriage to depict his relationship with the church.
Mm.
So if I'm growing in intimacy with my husband, what am I doing? We're spending quality time together, right?
Yeah.
We're being physically intimate, emotionally intimate, relationally, we're having all of these things of intimacy. And guess what we're learning to do? We're learning how to navigate conflict, how to navigate disagreement, how to navigate different cultures, all of these things in a healthy way. So if God said, watch healthy marriage to learn how I'm going to relate to you. So if I go to my husband and I say, I'm having this hardship, I'm having this struggle, and I know you don't like it, I know you don't approve of it, he's not going to kick me out the house and divorce me and banish me to torture. So why do
Wow.
we think God would?
Oh, well, you know why, Tracy?
We know
Because
religion.
many of us are raised thinking God is the way that whatever parental figure treated us
Hmm.
or the adults around us treated us. So we think we try to put God in this box to secure the fear of death. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
you've got to think
Yeah.
about it like existentially and but if you understand truly by reading the word and spending time and understanding your personal relationship with the creator of this world that none of us could put in a box,
Mm-mm.
none, not one. And anyone that says that they can, then they just took, it goes above and beyond our brains,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
His ways are not our ways, his thoughts are not our thoughts. It
Hmm.
is just something that's why it's in awe. Like
Hmm.
I know every morning when I go outside and look at creation, the sky, and I'm just like, Lord, thank you for another day. Help me not to make too many ego mistakes.
Mhm. That's what, yeah.
So, but I mean, I think we could go on and talk, and maybe we should finish the fruit of the spirit.
Okay, we got two more. Okay. Gentleness, humble strength, and softness, soothing your inner critic with empathy. I know we talked about empathy, but,
Mm.
and then self control, disciplined choices. Choices, 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 choices. Nobody can take your choices, choices. Okay, well, sorry.
No, I love
Self
that,
control,
Tracy.
disciplined
Self-control and
choices,
choices.
and boundaries. So, what would that look like? What's a practical step? Resisting, right? We got to do the work of resisting shame cycles and choosing healthy recovery paths. And so, then the reflection prompt at the end of it would be which fruit do you need most right now? And how
Mm.
can you begin practicing it towards yourself today?
Yes. Oh my goodness, self-control. That's probably one of the hardest things. I know. I think that's why it's the last one, right? Like think about it. Like I every word in the word of God is intentional. Every
Mhm.
single one of them. I think words are intentional. Words are, just a space and a place where we can use it to harm or to heal. And self control, what you just said, and how you just really emphasize choices,
Mhm.
because many people feel and they come so distraught thinking they have no choice. But I think Tracy and I are telling you that you do have a choice.
Absolutely have a choice.
Oh my. All right. So listen, I
I know.
cannot believe an hour went by
I
already.
know.
And I think I could sit here and do this a lot with you.
Well, hey, have me back. Part two.
So Tracy, is there anything you want to tell the audience before you say goodbye?
Yes, I do. I want to say, one, that you are loved, and I love your 139, right? Psalms 139. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, and
Yes.
and God is your very present help in your time of need, right?
Mm,
In your time of sorrow. And it's really as simple as saying sometimes, I need you and I don't know what to do next. He'll meet you
yes.
there.
Yeah.
The way through anything, I think, is learning how to center yourself in Christ. And a lot of what does that look like? It just kind of looks like, I'm here and I need you.
Yeah.
I'm here and I need you. And I want to say for everyone, to every woman who is in a prolonged season of singleness and you have urges and you want to have all these things, tell him he's waiting for it. I found so much freedom to be content in my season only because of him, right?
Mm,
He equipped me, but I had to wait, not rush. I had to be uncomfortable. I
yeah.
had to let all of my emotions come in my single, surrendered serenity solo place with him. It
Mm,
started with him. Then I could invite others, community, that's all important, but my anchor was him. And I say, anchor yourself in
oh,
Christ.
all right. That's wonderful. So where can someone work with you and find you?
Okay. Heartfeltneeds.com. That's the website. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. If you do Heartfelt Needs, on those, search me out, my name, but I am on Instagram, Facebook. I'm trying to get into the TikTok community. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, you're
But
brave.
yeah,
I
yeah,
do not touch Twitter or X or
mhm,
TikTok, and I'm trying not to touch any social media, but it
yeah.
just gets you.
Right. And my email address, Tracy Nallery at heartfeltneeds.com. I do
Okay.
want to say, and this is for nationwide. I have a journaling hour community. It's a free self-care community. We meet the first Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. for an hour and a half. There's education, discussion, and journaling prompts around redefining self-care. How do we be intentional about our body, soul, and spirit and relationships? First Tuesday of the month. It's free. And then I also, those that are in that community, they get weekly emails about the topics we're going to be discussing with prompts and things. So, but
I will.
heartfeltneeds.com, you can
I'll
find
that
me.
all of that will be in the show notes. And Tracy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, ma'am. It was a great time. Thank
All
you.
right. And remember, listener, to please trust in the Lord, guard your heart, and renew your mind. Bye. And now for the disclaimer to make sure you understand that you are responsible for you. The content provided on the Holistic Counselor podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical or mental condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The views expressed on this podcast are my personal opinions and do not represent the views of any professional organizations with which I am affiliated. Call your doctor, 911, or 988 immediately if you have a medical emergency. The Holistic Counselor podcast does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on the podcast. Reliance on any information provided by the Holistic Counselor podcast, guests appearing on the podcast at the invitation of the Holistic Counselor podcast, or other listeners to the podcast is solely at your own risk. Confidentiality notice. If you engage with the Holistic Counselor podcast by commenting or posting and are a client, please be aware that you may be revealing information that could compromise your confidentiality. Please remember that disclosing your identity or personal details can be linked to your clinical material. As a therapist, I am bound by confidentiality and will not respond to any disclosures of this type on this podcast. I am committed to upholding the ethics and confidentiality of the therapeutic relationship, which extends to all forms of communication in accordance with the laws and professional guidelines that govern mental health professionals. I want you to know that your privacy is of utmost importance, and you are responsible for protecting it when interacting on this platform or any other public forum. Thank you.